Good afternoon. It's Tuesday, January 7th, and it's 1 o'clock, and it's time for the regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners work session, that is. Up first, we have a final review of the BoCC Chair, Vice Chair, and committee appointments. And Charlotte is here to talk us through that. Talk us out of it.
Good afternoon. So I did provide a hard copy in case you needed it, and made the revisions that we talked about at the last meeting. So I think there's one where I have just saw that the appointment where you guys were talking about Levi possibly
Taking
being
over
the proxy for CCI.
Yeah, I remember that.
We have John in there, and then I had a slash on Levi on the proxy for all other committees under CCI. So
Awesome.
not sure if that's
Okay, if you're asking, thumbs up or something, is that what you want?
yeah. So I can take the question mark
Well,
off.
we talked about it before. I think that sounds fine to me, but you're all
I think the
CCI
question was whether Levi was cool with that, and John and Levi had an opportunity to confer.
Why
And then
don't we
John
bring
left
Levi
town.
up here so I can watch the expressions on
John
his
left town,
face?
so it's on you, man.
So is there an answer to that?
It didn't sound like it.
Okay, Levi's on board.
Awesome.
Take out that little question mark, and
Attaboy.
we're good to go.
Attaboy.
I have a couple things.
Yeah, go ahead, Patty.
First of all, there was some, and this is why I asked Levi, one of the reasons I asked him to be here. If you don't mind coming up, is that okay, Greg?
Sure, please.
I wanted to make sure there isn't an issue, conflict, or any with the having him as our formal lobbyist and having him attend other meetings in the stead of one of the members of the Board of Commissioners. And I don't know what bylaws might be, like, for example, CAST, if they have anything in their bylaws that says addresses lobbyists. I mean, I don't know. And if there would be an issue with, and I know other counties do it, and they are members of other organizations, either appointed to or the alternate to or whatever. I just want to make sure we're not going to have a conflict or issue with people questioning why our now fully official lobbyist is in the room. Some people think of a lobbyist with not a always positive definition.
Well, the thing is, he's a county employee, and he's a county staffer. That he happens to take care of lobbying may not be the same as have a contract lobbyist.
But he will now be formally a lobbyist registered through the state. It's different than where his position has been in
But
the
we
past.
should understand what the consequences of that are.
And they are separate, and so there can be full-time lobbyists that work for a lobbying firm, and then people who are staff that essentially dedicate a small portion of their time to completing lobby activities like registering with the Secretary of State or legislator outreach. But in the reporting, you just report the hours spent doing that as a part of your greater job function with the county. So that's the capacity that I'd be operating in.
So you haven't come across an issue.
Well, we haven't done it
No.
yet. This is the first.
And so far, Mesa, Boulder, Larimer, El Paso, a lot of different counties already kind of do this, and they haven't run into any problems with the bylaws with CCI and CC4CA and CCAT for sure. I'll have to check on CAST. I don't know about
Yeah,
CAST.
and Greg, just because this was news to us, I think, as a board, when we came up, now the state has this registered lobbyist for people who do this very part-time or X amount of hours, not like through a full-time lobbying firm, which is a different level. But, we just didn't have a clear understanding of how it worked because we've never done it before. We've never had a signed-on staff member as a lobbyist. So I just didn't want it to come back and then us have to go back through a process of changing things.
I don't think it changes anything with our member organizations. It just allows for some greater flexibility in terms of legislator outreach and lobbying or logging positions.
Yeah, I don't mind, but I mean, I don't know if anybody's gonna be uncomfortable if you're sitting in for one of us at one of these meetings, and they could do an exec session, and they're gonna say, wait a minute, we got a lobbyist in the room. I just wanted to cover your butt moving
Sure.
forward.
Well, I know Thomas from CCAT was a really big proponent of some other staff members from different counties going down this path, just so that they're completely covered in any conversations they have, and it hasn't kept them out of any rooms that I know of.
Because I know, I don't know, but some organizations may have it written into their bylaws that lobbyists are not part of the fray here, so maybe you can just clarify that with.
I think it would come up like with leadership positions. Like I think like for CCAP Board of Directors, you have to be a commissioner
Okay,
to own, to be voted in. as
right,
a
right.
Officer, things like that.
Right, okay. And you could, I mean, yeah, it would be uncomfortable. Well, I'm a member of staff and I'm a signed-on lobbyist and I'm gonna run this organization. It
Right.
might get a little sticky. So I just wanna make sure, keep you safe out there.
Thank you. Protect me from myself.
Thanks for bringing that up, Patty.
Well, I had that one, but I also have, I just want to, we don't have anybody down here for NACO who we're a member of. And since I've been going recently to the NACO meeting and maybe looking at least for the next 2 years, being appointed to one of the policy groups as a voting member, I think we might want to add that to this list.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, and then I need a backup, so if I can't
Any takers?
alternate.
I'll do it if nobody else wants to, but I'm
Yeah, and
happy
you and
to
I
have
can
others.
communicate it for some reason. But yeah, and then the third and final is, just want to make sure we're clear, and I need to still follow up. I've been trying to follow up with Brian Pettit about the TPR issue because of the possible legislation that CCI might be moving forward to split up our region. And I'm going to try and work with Brian against that because it's my understanding that none of the members of our current TPR region want to do this. It's coming from an outside county who doesn't even, they have a metropolitan transportation district. They don't have a TPR. And so why are they trying to change it? What's their interest in this? So I'm going to be working with Brian on that, but that brings me to the point of when we are an alternate to something, again, it doesn't necessarily mean we have to go to all meetings. That's a choice we can make. But I really like the fact as an alternate, if there's something that comes up, Steve was great this last year with Northwest COG. I'd call him ahead, bring him up to speed, and he would go into the meetings. So I think we need to maybe be a little better about doing that moving forward. So if for some reason somebody who hasn't been going to meetings needs to step in, they or at least have some idea what's going on. So a little more communication I think would be great. But other than that,
Greg and I communicated so well. He went to all the RWAPA meetings that I was supposed to go to last year.
I had no idea. Now it turns out I'm the chair.
really?
I'm
No.
the chair of RWAPA, yeah.
No, you're not.
I am the new chair,
Oh,
yeah.
you are.
But it was a surprise to me that I was the vice chair.
That's what happens when you're either at meetings
Yeah,
or
when you're
not
not-
at meetings,
when you're
right?
not there. Are you done, Patty? Is there more?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity.
I wanted to bring up that although CORE no longer has elected officials on its board, there are elected officials on advisory committees to CORE. And I'm staying on advising them. I'm on the development committee, on the governance committee. And it seems to me like it would probably make sense for us to have a hand in it and a commissioner involved in that. And I'd love to add CORE to the list on the other appointments list. Maybe just in at least in 4 years or maybe
So the
sooner.
core liaison?
Something like that.
I think that
Advisory
probably
committee, yeah,
fits in.
just a
Would work.
liaison, yeah. And anyone else wants to do that as well after I'm gone, maybe, or when I get thrown off or something.
You can keep us posted.
I'll keep you posted. What else is there? That's about it, really.
Is that it?
So I did find myself on a CMC advisory committee, but it seems pretty informal, but it's actually really fun. And so I'll hand that off too if anybody wants it. Okay, nobody's raising their hand. Go ahead, you are.
Just because you're bringing up core, I think the other one that you all have designated and maybe should be recognized is Ashley as your rep for the West Mountain
Well, right.
Regional Housing
Oh,
Coalition.
that's a good idea.
Great, thank you.
So that should be under this other,
I think that should be under the other.
okay.
Okay.
And I don't think I thought of anything else when I went through this, but, and
Okay,
this technically takes effect, we can pass it tomorrow, but it takes effect the following Tuesday afternoon, correct?
Correct.
So, yeah,
That's what it
alignment
says.
with, anybody else have anything on this? I think we're good to go.
All right.
Because
I'll
Kelly's
Thank
on
you.
here as chair, but she won't be acting chair until, is it a
Till the
2 week?
14th,
She can't sign this until after that.
until the 14th.
Right, but we're passing it tomorrow.
So I'll put Greg's.
Yes.
One last
there.
duty as chair.
I don't want Greg to miss that last opportunity, or Steve's to
Right, I may have to
participate.
advocate and let Steve do it. We'll think about this. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
I will make the changes and then
Last chance, I know.
you
Thank you.
will
Thanks,
receive the
Levi.
reso tomorrow
And if you could, yeah,
before the
find out about
meeting.
Cass, I think
Yep.
Cass will be clean, but.
Easy.
Wow, we're 3 minutes ahead of schedule, folks. Thanks for coming in, Levi. Good to see you. Review of future agendas, throwing that to Kara.
I don't have any future agenda changes. Leave it for you if any of you do.
Go- Francie? you-
I will not be here on the 22nd, and there's a lot on the
There's a lot happening that day.
docket. I will be at the River District. So, on Tuesday, I think is our main meetings with the River District, but I'll check with Andy to see if I can get out on Wednesday at like 11 and roar up here.
From Glenwood? Right, right. Yeah, that's a busy day.
Just do it on Zoom.
Or I could Zoom from Glenwood. I'll talk to Andy.
Yeah, because I think having you on the blue,
I haven't seen the agenda for our
Bell
meetings
Jack
down there
Blue.
yet.
A lot happening.
But I've seen the agenda for here, and I know
Right.
it's a lot.
yeah,
But
and,
I also can just, I'm pretty comfortable with where we stand on the two major ones on there. There's one that I think will merit discussion, but, well, they'll probably all merit discussion, but anyway, just wanted to give you guys a head up. Tuesday and Wednesday,
yeah,
unfortunately, that week.
Greg, may I?
Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, because Francie, I think having you involved in the Emma Fields Bell Jack Blue, and of course the temporary housing for farm workers.
Yes, that one. Okay,
Yeah.
so,
I think your participation.
if somebody would just be in touch with me that day, I'll step out for those discussions of whatever's happening at the
That's
River
most of that late afternoon.
Yeah, we
On
might be done
Wednesday, you
down
might be
there.
done.
We might be done. It might be just a day and a half, the meetings, but I'll check in.
Well,
You
I
might want to
will-
be done by then.
I will also flag on the Tuesday, we're having work session discussion about STR code. So I don't,
CR code? What's it?
STR,
Oh, STR.
the land use code. So,
Uh-huh.
On Tuesday, the 14th?
Tuesday, the 21st.
Oh, the 20.
Is that the 21st? Yeah, the
Really?
21st.
I don't remember seeing.
Yes, the 21st.
So I'm happy to check in with you
Okay,
earlier that week if you have comments you want me to bring forward.
okay, that'd be great.
For it.
Yeah.
And also joint meeting discussion with city, if you have any
Set a reminder.
thoughts on what you might want to discuss with the city. That we can discuss with the city. That's also on that Tuesday meeting.
Yeah, it's unfortunate timing. So it's 4 times a year. It's not like every month like Wolves were.
Do you think they purposely scheduled it on a Tuesday, and Wednesday when we have always had board meetings?
And I think
Tuesday?
the Garfield commissioners meet on Tuesday as well,
They do.
in the mornings, but, yeah. I think most commissioners meet on Tuesdays. Not everybody's a commissioner on the board, though. We have
Yeah,
people
but
like
You're the
Scott
most
McGinnis.
important.
Anything else on the future agendas? Doesn't seem like there's a lot more to talk about here. I think I'm good.
So I have my presentation.
Yeah,
on-
we're gonna go to open discussion, and Steve, we're handing this over to you.
Or is there any other open discussion items?
Well, we do have this, regarding the courthouse modernization. And I haven't read this
Well, we
yet.
have a lot of things, I think, on for open discussion.
We do?
Well, I have one thing I want to bring up. Steve's got a whole
Steve's got
presentation.
his thing. He's doing 15 minutes. is
It's
what-
pretty,
thorough.
Do you want to do the other ones, or do you want to do? Why don't we do Steve's presentation and then the other ones? Or
Okay.
which order would you like to go?
Let's do Steve's first, since he's getting it teed up.
Accept that. Join as panelist.
Okay. Now, the share screen.
Is Jeffrey on the phone, or is he on Zoom with us? I guess he's on Zoom. If he
uh-oh, I
wants
have
to.
a correction, Steve, right off the
on.
bat.
Then is it the guidelines?
It's the, yeah, guidelines.
Just select that one. And share down there.
Okay,
So-
learn a new, I think I have learned something new every week for the last 12 years, so I'm learning new skills here today.
Excellent.
Just in
You're
time.
not usually in that seat, Steve. You're gonna be coming back before us regularly, I'm sure.
So, the issue here and what I'm requesting is that the board supports my efforts in submitting an application to the Board on Geographic Names. There is a committee which decides geographic names, because Nicholson Creek, which comes off of Haystack Mountain, is right in front of my house, and Nicholson Creek ran down through the Nicholson Homestead property, which is now owned by Garland Lassiter, then into our ranch and into Capitol Creek. And we have known for decades that the name of the creek was misspelled. If you look on a USGS map, they spell the name Nicholson, Nickelson, which is totally improper. The name of the family is spelled Nicholson. I only met one of the Nicholsons one time, Hod Nicholson Jr., one time when I was driving the village shuttle bus, and he was there on the bus, and we got to talking, and he said he could not understand how they could have spelled their family name wrong on all the maps, and he was like miffed at the thing. So because of the counties being successful in having Mount Evans renamed into Mount Blue Sky, the light bulb went on in my head that now is a time it's possible to change geographic names. And so I started looking into it and finding out what you need to do to actually officially change the name of something. So the Nicholson family is there are 4 generations of them, possibly even 5 generations of them, living in the upper Roaring Fork Valley. They're a long-standing family, a very prominent family here in the Aspen area. So the people I'll be talking about a little bit are William B. Nicholson, who was born in England, and then he settled homesteaded up there on what became Nicholson Creek. His son, Joseph J.H. Nicholson, with the nickname Hod, who then ran the ranch for quite some years until almost 1930 when they sold the property. But then Hod Nicholson was elected Picken County Sheriff, and they moved into Aspen, lived in the courthouse basement where the sheriffs and their families lived in the courthouse.
Oh, really?
The jail was downstairs there too, so they were there to take care of the jailers. Then his son, Hod D. Nicholson, who people call him Hod D, was, when he came back from the World War II in the military, he worked in the sheriff's office. He was the driver's license examiner, where you would go to get your driver's license. When I got my very first driving exam, I went to Pickens County Courthouse, and the sheriff came out and gave me my driving exam.
Who was
That
the
was
sheriff?
the system, the
That
way
is
it
so
used to
cool.
be. Then Hod D had the Aspen Cleaners, which was on the corner, the same block where the Wheeler Opera House is, but on the,
mean
like
like
the
dry
opposite
cleaners?
corner. He ran, that was his business for several decades. Then his kids, he had 3 kids, so the one I listed here is Hod D. Nicholson Jr., who is the one who I have met. But there's also Mark Nicholson, and Greg, you might know the Nicholsons from Aspen
My
High School.
parents knew him. I didn't know him, but
Did you know
Hod's
any
name
of them?
came up a lot. Yeah.
So, going down, let's see. I gotta get used to this. So this is a picture of the Nicholson homestead cabin, which was up about 2 miles up the road from where I grew up on our ranch. It's now been replaced by a more modern cabin, but this is my memory of what the Nicholson place was, that nobody, I shouldn't say nobody was living in the cabin, because in the summer they would have a ranch hand living in this cabin and taking care of the place. It's right at the base of Haystack Mountain, which in the background you can see the mountain going up. That's all part of Haystack. It's in a very beautiful place. This photograph is of William B. Nicholson and his wife Alice. So he filed on the very first filing on the property. You can see this document here is his land claim,
Most beautiful handwriting.
all handwritten.
I know,
This is
so
in June
beautiful.
2nd, 1903. He filed this document at the courthouse.
So incredibly beautiful.
So notice the spelling, Nichholson. All the family, that's how their name is spelled. So the whole family moved up there, and this was way in a high valley, very remote from Aspen. There was no Highway 82 even at that point in time. When they came to Aspen, they would come on, a wagon, or when they had a car, they would motor into town. You'd see these old newspaper clippings, they talk about motoring. So Hod Nicholson and his wife would motor, they motored into Aspen, and this would be in the Aspen newspaper. That was big news in the quiet years in Aspen when there weren't that many people. If somebody came to visit, it made the newspaper. Just fascinating.
We were all celebrities back then.
So this is a picture of Hod Nicholson, H.J. Nicholson. He, I think, was maybe the original outfitter in the Roaring Fork Valley. He led pack trips all around the place. I have a copy of an article, which I don't think I brought up here with me. He took a bunch of, let me get this, you have to hear this. This is fascinating. Hod Nicholson and his bunch of Comanches and Navajos reached the city last evening from a trip through the wild country at the head of Snowmass and Brush Creeks. This morning the party left for Taylor Lake. So that was one of his pack trips, taking Navajos and Comanches in the backcountry here.
Wow.
Another thing he did was
It seems like it should have been the other
haul
way around.
fish into the countries up to Snowmass Lake and Capitol Lake.
Oh, really?
So here's an article from 1925, just a little clipping from the Aspen Daily Times. It said, this morning, fish culturist C.E. Olson and a couple other people took 20,000 fry and put them in Maroon Creek above Seavers Ranch. Tomorrow, David R.C. Brown, H.A. Brown, and Hod Nicholson will take 80,000 fry to Snowmass Lake and vicinity.
And where were the fry raised?
So they came from fish hatcheries. One group came from a fish hatchery in Leadville. They brought them over here.
Oh.
So he packed a lot of little fingerling trout up to Capitol Lake and to Snowmass Lake and perhaps other places.
I wonder what they were contained in.
Well, they
were-
had them in some kind of a container. He
they were
carried
in-
them
I
on
think they
his
were
with
in
his
leather
pack
satchel
horses.
bags that they hung over the backs of pack animals.
Because it was before plastic bags like
No,
when you go
but
to
they
the
were
fish
they were
store,
like
you know.
sealed as best you could, a leather satchel that they
Steel.
had water in
Or a
and
steel
So
little.
No
that's
kidding. Wow.
that's Hod. Now
Backpack
Hod, if
it
you
in.
look in the picture of him, I saw on the census report, he's 5'6" is what they listed on the 1920 census. So he was just a short guy.
Our census records our
I was
height.
gonna say your census has and your shoe size, by the way. I'm kidding.
So then, in 1926, I think it is, 1926, Hod and another relative, they each filed homesteading applications up on Nicholson Creek. It wasn't named Nicholson Creek yet at that point. It was just a creek coming down through their ranch. On the same land that their father had claimed, but anyhow, this is his patent where he was given, I think, 147 acres of land. So Harold, Joseph H. Nicholson, J.H. Nicholson was his official name. This is his patent. Let's see. The top photograph is of Hod and Paulina Nicholson in front of their cabin, the same cabin that was in that earlier picture. Now, Paulina grew up at the Gates place, just a mile up above where I live on Capitol Creek, on what I refer to as the Gates place, which is owned by the monastery now. So they only lived maybe a mile apart across what became our ranch later on, and they fell in love. And the picture.
Well, they were the only people around, so they had no choice but to fall in love.
Yeah, people on these homestead families
Or
living
like
on
at
farms, and they would marry somebody who lived in the neighborhood.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
didn't travel very much. The bottom picture shows Hod and Charlie Gates. Now, Charlie Gates was Paulina's father, and so that they had some dealings in with logs, and there's a filing in the courthouse, in the clerk's office here. It's actually like a warranty deed for a pile of logs that Hod bought from Charlie, and maybe this pile of logs that they're sitting on was the one in that deed. I'm not sure who the woman in the picture is. If that might be Hod's mom, but they would have big 4th of July parties up there on the Nicholson place. And they were eating some watermelon here, and I just love the picture of him. This guy was so full of life.
This article below,
Now, I'm going to read this article.
yeah, good.
This is
Really
this is amazing. The most amazing thing that I couldn't believe it when I found this. This is from 1923. Now, the Midland Railroad went out of business in 1922, so they had the tracks coming all the way up what's now Highway 82 to Aspen. So in this article, Billy Williams, now he would be from the Williams family that Williams Hill is named after, and Hod Nicholson are rapidly turning the old Midland right-of-way
Funny.
between Gerbosdale and Snowmass into a 14-foot highway boulevard. Old Jack Frost, however, will soon put a stop to road building, and but early next spring, work will be resumed on the roadway. So Hod Nicholson and Billy Williams basically built what is now Highway 82 through Snowmass Canyon.
That was the Midland on that side. Oh, right. I was thinking Rio Grande.
Yeah,
side,
it would have been a narrow railroad thing. They made it into a 14-foot wide
a highway.
state highway, basically. These two ranchers. That just
That's so interesting.
blows me away that that's how you used to get things done. And Hod Nicholson was somebody who would do that.
Did you see the paragraph just to the
the
left
right.
of the Billy Williams?
No.
John Trainer made a business trip, a business trip to Glenwold, GLENWOOLT. I'm just reading their good English in here, Steve.
So
So
then,
Steve,
this-
I have a question.
yeah.
When did the USGS survey it?
I'm not sure when they officially named the creek Nicholson.
Could it have been before they got there? But
There's-
maybe it's a coincidence.
There's
That's what I was
there's
thinking.
a
Maybe
whole. I'm not sure, but it's like I'm pretty sure it was afterwards that it was named. That the USGS came in, and that was the name of the family
Was
there.
that the Hayden survey, or was
So
it something
somebody
after?
just misspelled the name on it.
Would it have been the Hayden
Or
survey?
even if they didn't misspell, maybe it was named by something else, but it's appropriate to name it after the Homestead family that's very prominent. So then in 1928 through 1933, you see Hod Nicholson listed as the Picken County Sheriff. He served 2 terms. They lived in the basement of the courthouse. At that point, they sold the land there on Nicholson Creek and moved into town. And then he lived in town the rest of his life. He was defeated by Frank Bruin, who came back and won re-election in 1934. Hod, at that point, he spent the last, I don't know, he worked for about 12 years as a blacksmith at the Midnight Mine, was the last job he did in his varied career. But anyhow, being the, Picken County Sheriff, it's like an really interesting history. Paulina Gates, his wife, was very prominent. She was an election judge in Aspen for decades. That she was there, involved in every election. Tony Wagner wrote a column in 2023 where he talks about the Nicholson family, and he's actually related. One of the Nicholson descendants is a cousin of Tony's, but he mentioned Paulina Gates being the election judge for years. And she also, they would hold society events in the courthouse down in their residence. So she was involved in the Ladies Literary Guild of Aspen back in the day, and they'd all these people would come and they'd have dinner and a big get together down in the basement of the courthouse.
That's the oldest club society in Aspen. Longest.
Who was the
lasting.
sheriff.
Yeah.
So then here's the announcement of his death in 1964. Hod was buried, and I have another slide in a little bit, shows all the family members who are buried in Red Butte Cemetery. But this tells a little bit about, just the summary of his life. Since you all have copies of this, you'd be able to read this later. It's kind of hard to read.
I was looking at the price of bacon.
Right, I saw
What
that.
I like is the.
And I left the
the
Tom's
junkyard.
Market ad in there. It's not the whole ad. I just For those of you, those of us who have shopped at Tom's Market in the
Tom's
past,
Market used to be over on the corner.
that really that was like a blast from the past for me.
Yeah,
I like this junkyard thing.
right, yeah.
Especially
Right in the middle of town.
The scene looked more like a Chicago slum area than the center of a world-famous resort in 1964.
I remember that.
You can imagine the spring breakup, all the stuff that accumulated over the winter, all the cars that were buried in a snowdrift, all of a sudden are there again. Then I made a visit to the Red Butte Cemetery. I found the gravestone for Hod Nicholson and Paulina Gates.
Yeah, Red Butte.
Then I start looking around, and almost the next gravestone over is Charlie Gates' gravestone is right there, right by it. And I didn't search around, but then it turns out that William B. Nicholson and his wife and all these family members. So Alice Nicholson, Carol Nicholson was the wife of Hod D. Nicholson. I'm not sure who Fay Nicholson was, another relative, I'm not sure who. Then Paulina, all these people are buried in Red Butte Cemetery with Nicholson.
Paulina was 90.
So you can see how their name is spelled. It's obvious I'm kind of going into lots of detail on that. Now, this is the USGS map of the Capitol Creek area. So right in the middle, is there a way to do a pointer? Do I just need to do a,
We can see it on the map you
Cursor.
gave us.
I can see it.
Not actually sure.
I don't know if that's showing, oh, it's kind of showing up. Right in there, there's a little black dot. And that is the Nicholson homestead. Up
By Haystack?
on the, no, it's on the white part, which is the
Oh, it's just
privately
below
owned
the
land.
30,
Oh, I see it.
just down and over.
Yeah. That's on the Nicholson place. And you can see, just notice the name of the spelling Nicholson, Nickelson, which is what the federal government decided was the name of the creek.
What year did they make that map? Doesn't say.
Then,
Before a lot of development was up there.
I just took a picture on Google Maps just yesterday, and notice how they spell Nicholson Creek Road, Nichholson. So Google Maps spells it differently than,
Spelled it right.
so this road is County Road 9D. Capitol
They
Creek
forget the
Road is
K.
County Road 9. So Google Maps spelled it correctly. Then if you look at the Picken County Asset Management Plan, 2002, they spelled it Nichhelson, Nicholson Creek Road.
So it's spelled three different ways at least.
2016,
K with
they
an E,
spelled
with an
it,
O, with a-
Nicholson spelled correctly, Creek. In 2022 Asset Management Plan, they spelled it like the creek is spelled on the USGS map. So Picken County Road and Bridge is not sure how to correctly spell it.
Nobody's sure.
Then you go to the Picken County Parcel Report. So the blue part there is the current meets and bounds of the Nicholson place. It's owned by Garland Lassiter now, who is, he's related to John Bennett. They're like cousins. John Bennett is Garland's wife Molly's cousin. So they're kind of it's a family affair here in the Roaring Fork Valley. Notice how the clerk's office spells it, Nicholson Creek Road, with a Nichkelson. Garland Lassiter did research. He was trying to decide how to spell the name of his LLC, or his limited partnership. He spelled it the way it is on the USGS maps. So there's lots of confusion by different entities, including Pickett County, as to how should this be spelled correctly. These are guidelines from the official document from the Board on Geographic Names. So one of their principles is the most important policy regarding names is local use and acceptance. So there are different people around here spell it differently, but our family has spelled it Nichholson for years. Tony Wagner has written 2 different columns in the paper that I'm aware of. He knew the Nicholson family very well, and he goes on and on about how they spelled the name of the creek wrong, and it's an insult to the family. So there are some, most people probably spell it because they see it on the USGS map. That's probably how most people spell it, but there are people still spelling it differently. Proposals to correct a misspelling of a historic or personal commemorative name will generally be given favorable consideration if the proponent presents convincing evidence that the name has been misspelled and should be changed. All the photographs and everything I showed you showed how the Nicholson spelled their family and their homestead papers for the land there that the creek runs through. The person being honored should have had either some direct or long-term association with the feature or have made a significant contribution to the area, community, or state in which it is located. So the Nicholson family was totally associated with the creek that ran through their place. They made significant contributions to the area, with Hod being the sheriff, building what became Highway 82 through Snowmass Canyon, hauling all the fish around. Those are really significant contributions. His son, Hod D, was an alderman on Aspen City Council. He ran the only laundry in town for years. He worked at the sheriff's office. He was like the undersheriff and was the driver's license examiner. So I'd say the family made significant contributions here in the community. And they say it takes about 6 months for a decision to be made, so I'm pretty much done gathering information. I just got to put it together in a packet and get it submitted, but it probably will take about 6 months. And they very likely would come back to ask for more information, or maybe come back to the Board of Commissioners and ask, do you really support this, or whatever. They might ask for more information. I'm thinking they might need to have the Forest Service sign off on it because it starts in the wilderness area, and they have very specific guidelines about the wilderness area and name places in wilderness areas. And then this address, the executive secretary is the official contact with doing the name change request and sending information. So what I'm proposing are several things, or asking too, that either the board writes a letter of support for the proposed name change, or alternatively that we pass an informal resolution to the same effect. I talked to Rye about that, and it maybe either way, and we could discuss how, if you all, I would hope you would support doing the name change. To me, it totally makes sense. So this letter would be going in with a packet to them in my application. Other times we have received, as a board, we've received communication from the Board of Geographic Names asking if we support the renaming of a mountain. There was one up by Independence Pass of somebody we had never heard of.
He wasn't connected with it.
We did not support that. Well, in this case, I'm asking for the support up front, and I think that would add support to, credence to the application, especially since Hod Nicholson was a Pickens County sheriff back in the day.
Well, you've got my support.
I think it's a great thing. You've done a lot of research on this. It's a wonderful idea. It'd be great to confirm that the Hayden survey was done in 1873 or 4, and then the patent on the land was in
First was in 1903.
1903, and then 1926 when it was patented. So there was at least 25 or 28
I
years.
could try to find out if there's an official when the USGS named the creek.
I think that would be a good thing to confirm there wasn't somebody named Nicholson out there.
In the Hayden survey party or
I just
something.
looked. The Hayden survey had nobody named Nicholson as near as I can tell, but Thomas Moran and the great photographer, were all along on that one. So I was just researching that while you were talking about it. So I haven't discovered any other Nicholsons, but I'd support what you're doing, and it looks like we can just pass a resolution to do it. We could rename the road tomorrow.
So I'll see if I can find that before tomorrow,
Yeah, I think if you do that, you should really get Garland Lassiter to weigh in, because what would it take is he gonna wanna rename anything on his property? Is he gonna have to go out and buy a bunch of new signs, or is he just gonna let go of it?
Well, I talked to Garland about it this past summer,
Yeah,
which he has an official, he filed corporate papers basically spelling his name Nickelson. And he said he would support renaming it. I asked him if he would give me a letter of support. He said he would, but then I've never received it. I'm gonna have to ask him again.
right.
He is the one person who I could see might object to it because it might end up costing him some money or something, but.
Well, because his legal documents creating his family, whatever it is, partnership, spells it with an E, not an O, and now we want to change it to an O, why would he not spell his name correctly on the documents?
Well,
His
the
own
name of the
name.
partnership doesn't have to be the same exact name as the creek.
It could be different than the geographic name. He
We
wouldn't
should
have to
investigate that
change it.
Yeah, before we do it.
Your point, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
But I don't know why we have to do it by tomorrow.
on the air, I would like to
wants
thank
to do it before he's
Garland
done.
and Molly Lassiter.
We don't have a resolution ready for tomorrow.
Most of the photographs of the family who I've shown in here were from a collection of photos that the Nicholson family gave to them. One of the photos, the photo of Hod standing by the pack horses, I got that from Paulina's niece who used to live in Carbondale. So it's just like, these folks still live around here. It was fascinating to me looking in the old newspapers, which any of you can go online to the Aspen Historical Society and then get plugged into these old newspapers. There are just fascinating things that you can read in there that are just amazing. One last little part of it has to do with the name of the road. And Brian Pettit said, well, if I get the name of the creek changed to Nicholson, Nichholson, that then the county could rename the road. The county seems confused as to how to spell the name of the county road anyhow, and that you could probably officially change the name of the road at any time, but Brian kind of indicated that that could come later. It doesn't have to be done immediately. I think the pressing thing is getting the name on the creek spelled correctly. So,
There you have it. My question is, I think it makes sense to change the name of the road first. That may be all we really need to do, because it may take quite a while to change the name on the maps.
yeah.
But we could change the name on the road first and just,
Yeah,
Not worry
and
about it
that
after
might
that.
then help the the Board of Geographic Names, if the county has named the roads with the correct spelling,
Maybe that would help, and also.
then that would be
us
one
off the
more
hook.
impetus to them to change the name. So I leave that up to the board and to Rye, talk to Rye about it, and Brian Pettit should be involved in the discussion.
So are you proposing that we create a resolution to change the name of the road?
Well, that would be, it's like a two-part thing. So that would be, one part would be, and I don't know, it probably would be a resolution, but
Right.
to change the name of the road.
Well, I'd support that if you brought it forward.
Now, I just got a phone number for Hod Nicholson Jr., who lives in Morrison, the one who I met at the Village Shuttle Bus back about the year 2000 or so. And I am going to talk to him and see, I mean, he's the one who kind of put the bee in my bonnet, like, well, how could they have misspelled our name? And neither one of us thought then, well, let's do something about it. But now
Right.
I'm hoping I can get him. I'm hoping I can track down Mark Nicholson also. Who, last I knew, he was still living in the Roaring Fork Valley.
Well, thanks for that, Steve.
So,
That's great.
Yeah, thank you,
It was a
Steve.
great bit of history. It was fun to go back and go down that rabbit hole with you, or up that creek with you.
Yeah,
So,
I think it's really worth pursuing. I think making sure we've vetted if there's anybody out there who might be objecting to this and clarify that before. It's better to have that done before you submit an application than to come back to kick you in the teeth at the end of the day. And this information, but where did you get the stuff on the sheriffs? Because it's not current. I'm like, wait a minute, Joey's not currently the sheriff, so I'm thinking, where did that, something's not updated there, so. But yeah, I think getting the name spelling is probably pretty simple based on the criteria. And I just want to, I think we should, before presenting an application, sending it on to the feds, we should just vet those issues that came up today. And then I think a letter and a reso are probably appropriate. The letter being reflected in the reso would be perfect, to make it really official.
I support that. I think maybe the direction is for the attorney's office to look into if there's process or something that has to happen. I don't know if there's like notice provisions
Yeah,
for
well, we need, I think there is.
changing
Kara, you
names.
ready to dive in on that?
Anyway,
So I'm hearing two things. So support if there's a proposal to change it with the USGS, but also direction to work with staff about potential changing or clarification of the county road itself.
Right.
Okay.
Great, thanks. One may be easier than the other.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting that Mr. Nicholson put in his legal documents, his name spelled wrong.
Oh, really?
Well, that's what Steve is saying, yeah, his,
I didn't catch that.
yeah, whatever it was.
so I think,
We could ask them if they'd like to change their name to the other spelling.
Yeah.
Save us a lot of hassle.
I think doing this right now, at the stage when I'm gonna become retired, it has inspired me. I wanna keep digging into this. and
Okay.
Finding out
You've got a
more, and I'm gonna
retirement
be-
project.
I think I'm gonna become, I haven't even been over to the Historic Society yet, but I think they probably have a lot of information
Well,
that.
they're warned now, they're gonna be ready for you.
Something tells me you're gonna be back before us, Steve.
well,
You can't technically come back before us,
Oh, for how long?
I think it's 2 years.
Oh, we'll see you in 2
They
years.
can't bring us anything for
No,
2 years?
you can come for, it's like for legislative quasi.
I don't know, we better clarify that, because we wanna
because
make
of
sure we
citizen.
don't mess it up, and we do it right.
What?
Great, thanks, Steve.
Yeah, you can't come back before this board.
It's like
Okay,
That's a
the other
weird
thing I see here is we've got
You
this
signed on,
courthouse modernization
Weird.
team award.
Yeah.
Pickton County's gonna receive an award on May 15th at the Sewell Ballroom in Denver. And they need, they're inviting a group of county people involved in the project to go down and celebrate.
And they need something by the 12th.
And they need something by I had,
January
it says
3rd.
January 3rd. So
Oh,
I'm
the
assuming
3rd.
that Jody's on top of this.
Okay.
Yep,
then.
so they've actually expanded it to January 7th. So the county received the Citizens Bank State Honor from the Colorado Preservation in recognition of the courthouse remodel. So the awards ceremony is going to be on May 15th down in Denver. What we're asking for is CBS 4 in Denver is going to do 3 pre-recorded for all award recipients, 3 pre-recorded interviews. So we want to know, we would like one member from the board to do that pre-recorded interview. I think the other 2 folks on the project are likely to be Susanna Reed from HBC and then a member of the project team, whether it's FCI or the architect or something. And that will be part of the award ceremony. So 2 questions before you today is a request for a board member to do that interview. And then also if anyone would like to be at the invitation to join the award ceremony.
I wanted to ask about, would Jody be part of this? Would she be
Yeah,
part
yeah,
of one of the
she's
people
all part-
interviewed?
yeah.
She'd
Well,
be one of the
yeah,
people interviewed,
she
I
was the
assume.
staff person, but it was really done under the direction of the BoCC.
Yeah.
Right, but I think.
So Jody
she
will
was
be
one
one,
of
but
those.
we would like
Great,
to see if a board
great.
member would like
Well,
to do
we
that.
could assign
I
that
would
to the
love to
board
do it.
chair.
I would recommend Patty or Greg because of your history with
Well,
Aspen
I've been the
and
defender
building
of
and
that
everything.
court.
Okay, it's
mean-
Patty's thing. Patty, it's all you.
But I do have a question too, Greg. I'd like to see what was submitted by staff, the list of names and people and
Yep.
photographs and that. I think that packet, there's a bunch of bullet points on here. I would love to be able to, for us to see that, what they put together.
We can connect. I know Jody.
It's
has
very
been following
exciting.
it all. It's great in recognition of an amazing project
Yeah,
that was done.
that's great.
Okay.
I know you're doing a press release also. Will
I
Allison
think
put
we're
something out?
yeah. I think we're gonna do it closer to the awards ceremony. I think is what they requested, but
Well, if
So,
anybody's
so
watching.
you could add new information about how the courthouse was the residence of the sheriff.
there you go.
And
Down
Nicholson,
in where it caught fire.
what was the name, how
Yeah,
was his
where
name
that
spelled?
fire
The
was.
fire was. The other thing is, I think, believe it or not, in my stack of very neatly organized papers on my desk, I think there's a stack of old newspapers or something that the architect's family brought and gave to me many years ago. I'll look through that to see what that,
It's a linear filing system.
it's a patty filing system.
Go through your file on your desk and see if you see anything about Hod
It's actually a
Nicholson.
vertical.
Yeah, I've already
Maybe
given
you've
all
got
that
the
to Steve.
USGS newspaper reports in there.
Yeah, so if we
Okay,
could,
anything else for open discussion?
there is one
Oh,
other.
One other thing, we have, we got
I
great
would
news
like to
today.
thank Francie and Greg for going to Washington. And we just got notice that the county received the RAISE grant for $2 million for fiscal year 2025. It's for our multimodal transportation system planning at the airport. I'm excited, and Greg said we should have asked for more, but it's just a start. So once we get this moving, no pun intended, forward, I think it's a great opportunity for us to show the community that we've taken their comments and their concerns about transportation to and from the airport. We've taken that to heart, and that this grant that we just received from the federal government, the RAISE grant, will help us start that planning process. So we're kicking it off, guys.
Yeah, it's really great.
I wanted to say, yeah, Francine and I were there. We had a chance to speak to them and make an appeal. And the foundation of the appeal was that we have public support. We have overwhelming public support for.
And we had really
It is.
strong support from our senators who did at least write letters, if not make phone calls.
Right, and the senators
They'd
were,
already sent the letters.
right, and the senators were very gratified to know that we had the public support as evidenced by
Can
the
we do a
vote.
thank
We
you?
need to write them thank you.
We will,
Yeah.
yeah, we will. And I think a couple other things we brought up when we were talking to them, we kind of did a tag team. We talked about the condition of the runway, the aging airport, the degradation of both, that we must act expediently, and that we are the third busiest airport in the state. I think 350,000 emplanements, which include residents. A third of those are residents, or 30%. Tourists visiting the most visited national forest in the United States, the White River National Forest, and visiting dignitaries. The governors' associations meet here, diplomats, elected officials. The incoming Secretary of the Navy has a place here and is traveling in and out. This is an important airport for the state and the country. And that's what we told them. And I think they were happy to hear us say that we had the public support. That was the most
One
important
of the things
thing.
we also talked about was the impact on the quality of life for our workforce. with the traffic problems. And they actually pursued
right.
that a couple of times. They were interested to hear about that. And
Right.
that this is one step towards making that a little bit better for people.
Right, that was a good point. You brought that up. Well done. So, anyway, congratulations to everybody.
Congratulations
moving
to
forward.
everyone. It was a
Yeah.
huge lift of you all going to DC, and this was multiple rounds. And so to get this funding is a huge next step for the airport and the community.
You know,
it's
something
really
else that
exciting.
did we talk about this yet? That we did receive word from the Forest Service that they're
yeah.
going to allow us to hire seasonal
No, I didn't.
professional workers. They changed
Right away.
their, like, days
I didn't
after we
hear
got
that.
home.
Called Scott, like literally days after we had been there.
Right.
It was really cool.
It was fun to be able to go to the head of the Forest Service.
Yeah.
What's the head of the Forest
Well,
Service's
somebody
name?
does.
Remember his name? The head of the Forest Service.
Chief something.
So, yeah.
And we basically
he's
said,
the
we
under-
want to help you.
He's the undersecretary in the Department of
They
Agriculture.
called him Chief.
Yeah, and and our argument was,
Chief
we
Forest.
want to give you money to help pay for professional rangers, you know, in the summer that are doing the heavy lifting. It can't be student volunteers. It has to be people who are trained and know. As much as we love the youth programs and all that, that can't replace what we're doing. And it was funny. He looked at his staff and said, "Why aren't we doing this?"
Yeah.
And bam,
This
he
is
got
like-
the call 2 days later.
So did Eagle then get the opportunity? Because Eagle has a lot of the same funding issues, because I hear about it all the time through Northwest
I don't
Cog.
know.
They'll
And
have to go
Summit, I don't
ask.
think it was just us. I have a feeling that it helped everybody in the region.
So, yeah, so it was the call from Scott Fitzwilliams, I think, to Gary Tenenbaum was how it
Okay,
came
I'll check
through.
with Gary. That's
So, but we
huge.
should circle
It was
back,
like
yeah.
really like 2 days after we were there. It was amazing.
You know, what, something else, Kelly, since you'll be chairing soon, I would like to get, we never got a real debrief from you guys and from John, because I know the holiday came up. So I would like to maybe get a debrief on who you talked to and what happened in DC, so the rest of us, in case we get contacted or go the next time, we're all on the same page.
It's a
So
great
that would be
idea.
great if
And
that's a.
you're right, we should have, and I'll have to dredge my memory to remember. But those
That'll
are the
help
two.
you too,
Those are the
Greg.
two biggest moments of that whole thing, were
That's huge.
the results coming in already. So,
And the interest that I've received from NACO to be part of one of their policy group is their transportation committee.
that's great.
It's not the environmental one because of the carbon fee or tax. That one is really a hot group, and moving the revenue one through the transportation committee, so
Now,
that would be a great connection.
And John thought we would be going back again this year for the runway stuff.
probably will, yeah.
And I may have the opportunity when I'm there in March with NACO to, because it's a long legislative conference, which
Good time.
but it'll give me time back there to maybe work with that when I'm there, but I'll make sure I get
Yeah.
in
Okay,
the
cool.
loop on that.
The last other thing on that note regarding lobbying is Skiing Company Environmental Foundation, Protect Our Winners, Auden Schindler and Hannah Berman from Skico have proposed to their executive team that they hire a lobbyist to work on carbon fee issues with the FAA. And they reached out to us to say, would you guys help? Would you participate with us? They're putting in $75,000, I think, is the budget they have. They're asking us to put in $25,000. And I've sent a letter to John. It came to us in October.
Yeah,
and
we've been
we
talking
didn't-
about it for a
we talked-
while,
We've been
but-
talking about it, but it came back again, and so should alert you all. I personally think we should participate in good faith with them if they're taking the lead, and it's a way for us to participate without being the lead on it, which may
Right, but
be
we already have a
beneficial.
lobbyist that we're paying to help us with this. I
Right.
talked to Auden just recently at the core event
Yeah.
and said, why don't we, talk to the lobbyists we've already retained to be helping us with this and have them coordinate to see who's on first,
Exactly.
who's on
That's
second.
exactly,
Before
yeah.
we pay more money for another lobbyist.
Yeah.
that
I was going to
might-
say, what would the 100,000 then be for?
We'll be
75.
hiring somebody who specializes in that, and of
And
course
we
have
are,
someone in
we will
mind.
not be taking back, and I talked to Auden about this, to the NACO meeting, the issue, right now anyway,
carbon.
of the carbon fee or tax, because we haven't figured out if we need to amend the policy group's platform in order to do so, which is a whole nother step that can't
Right.
be done at legislative, has to be done at their annual meeting in the summer sometime.
Right. Well, I think it's important that we not ignore their request to work with them, but I've also suggested that that our lobbyists be involved in that.
Yeah, because I don't want to say we're hiring two nah, we need to,
Right. It may end up just being one firm that does it.
I will share, Greg, Rich and Auden have been talking after
That's
you
right.
connected, and so I know Rich and Auden are discussing, and I think they're getting
Right.
coordinated of what
our-
are the opportunities to leverage the lobbyists that are going, and I think they'll be reporting back to the board after they
Great.
meet a little bit more.
Okay.
One little quick thing that's of interest is our Pitkin County press release on Three Meadows recognized the Wexners. AVLT's press release on Three Meadows did not.
Right. There was a
They
question
thanked
whether or
Pitkin
not.
and Eagle,
Well,
but
there,
that
there
was
was a question whether or not they wanted to be recognized, and it was okay that they did, so maybe that just came out after or something. But that was discussed
because it
with
was anonymous for
their
a long time.
representatives. Yeah, we wanted to make sure they were okay not being anonymous, or if they were okay with it.
right.
So
And
they-
apparently they're actually thinking that they should be recognized for some of the work they've been doing because it gives them more power to do more work. Is what,
The Wexners?
yeah. Well, one of them.
Yeah, and that's great. That's gonna be an exciting thing as it comes together.
They are my
It-
next door neighbors.
It closes
Well, we
in,
have this up before us tomorrow.
and that contract closes in about 30 days, I think. Something
Well,
like
we
that.
have to pass the thing, we have 2 readings.
Yep. That's all
And
I've
Eagle
got.
has to pass it.
And AVLT has to approve it too. I think they all will, personally. I'm ready to call it a day. What about
Me
you?
too.
Tomorrow, noontime.
Okay, that's it. I think we're done.
Thanks.
Nothing else?
Thanks, Grassroots.
Thanks, Andorra.